Hello, everyone. Welcome to October. October is my favorite month on the calendar year for a number of reasons, not the least of which is my fondness for what Kermit the Frog would call the strange, the weird, and the scary. So I'm going to be devoting some vlogs this month to eerie, disturbing, fascinating, supernatural delights. So, horror is going to be the theme, whether it's simply a scene, a horrific scene from a movie that is actually in another genre, or it's a full on horror film. Fantasy and horror are closely intertwined because both presuppose the existence of the supernatural. So, I guess that's why I tend to have an affinity, particularly for classic horror. And today, I want to talk about five of my personal favorite scary cartoon sequences. So, Disney, I will warn you, is going to be a little bit overrepresented on this list because that is what I grew up with. And also, back when they first started making animated features in the 30s and 40s, Disney knew how to bring the scary. Anybody who has sat through their adaptation of The Legend of Sleepy Hollow and has watched Ichabod Crane galloping his horse away from the headless horseman who's holding a giant flaming jack-o'-lantern in his hand, or has seen Lampwick transform into a donkey with a terrifying bray of "Mama!" knows that Disney was not afraid to go to some really dark places back when they first got started. Well, this actually began, at least from my perspective, with their very first animated feature. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, made back in 1937. It's only fitting that I highlight one of the scenes that frightened me most when I was small, which is the transformation of the evil but beautiful queen, this regal woman with her hair concealed behind a veil and a crown, and with her long flowing cape, her body straight and erect. This beautiful, regal, evil woman into the most horrific hag that ever gaped out at you from the shadow of a nightmare. This transformation scene disturbed me for weeks after I saw it. For those of you who haven't seen it, I do recommend checking out this movie because it does show you how everything got started. And again, the queen is quite scary, even when she's in her regal, beautiful form. Partly because of the voice work of Lucille Laverne, character actress who made a number of appearances in live action films around the time, and among them A Tale of Two Cities, which I already named as a favorite of mine in my 1930s project. But the way that she voices this woman, just this barely controlled icy rage that she has, that there is someone in the world younger and more beautiful than she is. And in this transformation scene, first we see her mix the potion, which is a little bit eerie in and of itself, and it helps to build up the suspense. Then finally, she drinks the stuff, and you see the screen start to spin, and her hair starts flying loose, escaping from its confines as it turns deathly white. Then we see her grab her throat. We see her hands shrivel and become gnarled and warty. And finally, we see her shadow thrown onto the wall and hunched down as she loses her regal posture. And then finally, we see the final result, what she has turned into. Woo! Fascinating, terrifying, and absolutely gorgeously animated. Props to the film score that adds to that moment, that adds to the horror of that moment. Now, interestingly enough, 1937 also brought us the non Disney example I want to share. This is one that a lot of people may not have heard of. A Warner Brothers short entitled The Case of the Stuttering Pig. Now, with a title like that, you think it's going to be a spoof of a mystery, but it's really a horror melodrama, a dark melodrama. The setup is pure melodrama because you have Porky Pig and his siblings inheriting a fortune. And if something should happen to all of the pigs, the property will fall to a soft-spoken family attorney named Lawyer Goodwill. Well, after he has read the will to the pigs, Lawyer Goodwill descends a long staircase, and we soon see him in what looks like a laboratory. And much like the witch, he drinks a potion that transforms him from a roly-poly, sweet-voiced, I guess you could say anthropomorphic dog. Not sure quite what species he belongs to, but he changes into a monster with a long snout, sharp teeth, and a very deep, loud snarl of a voice. And he tells the audience, looking them straight in the, quote, eye, "I'm going to get rid of those pigs, and there's nothing you can do about it." And it is very unsettling as you watch him slowly pick off each one of the pig siblings. Spoiler alert, they are okay. The short does end up with all of them being restored to, quote, the land of the living. They were actually hidden away, not actually hurt. But the happy ending is down to a break of the fourth wall. And it is a pretty funny ending to what is really a rather atmospheric, macabre short. Warner Brothers really used the scary elements for humor, and this is no exception. But it actually comes closest to being a genuinely scary short from that particular company. So moving on to 1941 and Dumbo. Here we have the famous Pink Elephants on Parade sequence, which is a hallucination of the tipsy protagonist. And I put this on the list partly because, well, for one thing, it really is scary. You get 5 minutes of pure, unbridled chaos as you see the pink and other color elephants marching to a tune that starts with words that will basically tell you that it's supposed to be scary here. Look out! Look out! Big elephants on parade! Oh! Now, I love that sequence to pieces. For one thing, it's just an absolutely dizzying display of brilliant animation. Just a bunch of wonderful, crazy animators going nuts because that's the spirit of the whole sequence. But when I was very small, I guess 5 or 6 years old, I had the long playing record of Dumbo. And that I played it and played it and played it, loved the story, identified with the elephant hero, loved his friendship with Timothy Mouse, that kind of thing. The problematic elements didn't really register with me back when I was 5 or 6 years old, but this song, I took very great care not to listen to this song before bedtime or before going down to a nap, because I absolutely refused to have that song in my head when I was trying to go to sleep. Now, of course, it's my favorite. A lot of things that terrified me when I was young have become my favorite things as an adult. Looking at the time, I got time to tell you about at least one more before I have to call the video to a halt. This is an animated short, a Disney animated short from 1935 called Pluto's Judgment Day. And in it, Pluto basically has a nightmare where he goes to hell and is tortured by all the cats he's wronged. They put him on trial. And the outcome is a foregone conclusion. We know they're going to find him guilty because, after all, when they sing, "And we promise he'll get justice," the judge winks, the prosecutor winks, and all the cats on the jury also wink. Now, the scariest moment in this little short for me is a moment where you see all of the cats that Pluto has basically killed. Yeah, he had a body. He has a body count. Come out onto a stage to testify, including one very fat little kitten dressed up in a little boy's uniform, a little boy's outfit, carrying a balloon, what looks like a balloon. And he says, "That great big bully picked on me because I was so fat. He chased me under a steamroller and then he left me flat." And as he says the word flat, he turns. And we see that, in fact, he has been literally flattened. He's basically a walking pancake. And as he walks away after having given his testimony, we see him disapparate. A reminder that what we were just looking at and what we were just hearing is a ghost. He's no longer among the living. Now, this short is available on YouTube. I've watched it several times there, but I got to give a trigger warning in case you want to seek it out, because there is a sequence that is, well, it's racist. I'll just go ahead and put it that way. It's the type of sequence that you see in the films of the 30s and 40s, where they didn't really even think about it back in the day. That racist off-color jokes were unfortunately very common at this particular time. But this sequence lasts less than a minute and can easily be forward through. You don't have to sit through that. If you just want to make it even scarier by just imagining the rather insulting stereotypes that people had, that people who weren't straight and white had to put up with, then watch it for history, but you don't have to. You can forward through that and enjoy the rest of the cartoon. Now, it is now 14 minutes and 15 seconds, so I'm going to have to cut this short. I actually had one more example. Maybe I'll be able to make a second vlog on this subject where I'll give you that and some more examples. But now I have to bid you farewell and thank you for your time and attention. And if you liked this, please like and subscribe. And I will see you later on for more of the strange, the weird, and the scary.